They say you never forget the moment your entire life changes. For me, it happened twice. The first time was in the desert sand of Iraq, under a sky painted red with fire and blood. The second time was in a sterile hospital room in San Diego, when a dying man opened his eyes and spoke a name I had buried 5 years ago. But I am getting ahead of myself. Let me start from the beginning, from the moment I became invisible, the moment I stopped being Dr. Laura Bennett and became just another nurse in scrubs that nobody noticed. My name is Laura Bennett, and I work the night shift at Naval Medical Center, San Diego. Every evening at 6, I put on my blue scrubs, tie my hair back, and walk through those sliding glass doors into a world where I am nobody special. The other nurses are kind. They invite me to lunch, ask about my weekend, share stories about their kids. But the doctors, they look right through me. To them, I am furniture, a necessary tool that hands them instruments and updates charts. Dr. Harrison is the worst. He snaps his fingers when he needs something, never says please or thank you. Last week, he made a joke in the break room. "What is the difference between a nurse and a toilet?" he said, laughing with his colleagues. "A toilet does not follow you around all day." They all laughed. I smiled and poured my coffee and said nothing, because that is what I do now. I say nothing. I am invisible by choice, by necessity, by survival. San Diego is beautiful this time of year. The October sun makes the ocean sparkle like broken glass, and the palm trees sway in the breeze outside my small apartment in Pacific Beach. I chose this place deliberately. It is far from Washington, D.C., far from the marble corridors of power where my face used to appear in newspapers. Here, nobody knows who I was. Nobody asks questions. I am just Laura, the quiet night nurse who always picks up extra shifts and never complains. If this story has grabbed you so far, go ahead and subscribe to the channel now, because what comes next will surprise you even more. I was not always invisible. There was a time when I walked through hospital corridors and people stood straighter, spoke more carefully, treated my words like gospel. I was Dr. Laura Bennett, trauma surgeon, top of my class at Johns Hopkins, recruited by the military at 29 to serve in combat zones. For 6 years, I operated in tents and makeshift hospitals across Afghanistan and Iraq. I held together soldiers whose bodies were torn apart by explosives. I made impossible decisions in seconds, chose who lived and who died when resources were scarce. They gave me medals, the Silver Star, the Bronze Star. My face appeared in recruitment materials. Dr. Bennett represents the best of military medicine, they said. I believed I was making a difference, that every life I saved justified the nightmares, the exhaustion, the constant weight of death pressing against my chest. Then came April 14th, 2019. We received a distress call from a convoy ambushed 30 miles outside Mosul. Multiple casualties, including high-ranking officers. The helicopter brought them to our field hospital in waves. Blood everywhere, screaming, chaos like I had never experienced. And then they brought him in. General Marcus Whitmore, 3 stars on his collar, a bullet through his abdomen and another through his thigh. Next to him, 15 Marines, boys really, 19 and 20 years old, bleeding out from shrapnel wounds. I had to choose. Limited blood supply, limited time, limited hands. The general or the boys. Thank you for staying with me this far. It shows you feel the same thing I felt when I lived through all of this. So go ahead and subscribe and turn on notifications, because what comes next changes everything. I chose the boys, all 15 of them. I spent 11 hours in that operating tent, moving from one table to another, my hands steady even as my heart shattered. We saved 14 of them, lost one to complications, but 14 went home to their families. General Whitmore died on the table beside us. His personal physician, a colonel named Stevens, screamed at me, called me a murderer, a traitor, said I had killed an American hero to save nobodies. The investigation started within 48 hours. They accused me of negligence, of making politically motivated decisions, of letting personal bias influence medical judgment. None of it was true, but truth does not matter when powerful people want revenge. They court-martialed me, leaked stories to the press, painted me as a radical who valued enlisted lives over officers. My face was everywhere. My name became poison. They stripped my rank, my position, my entire identity. By the time they finished with me, I had nothing left except a nursing license and a new name on falsified documents. That was 5 years ago. Now I am here, in San Diego, starting over in the only way I know how, caring for people, even if nobody knows who I really am. The work is different, but the purpose remains the same. Last night, around 2 a.m, the emergency room doors burst open. Paramedics rushed in with a stretcher, and I heard the words that always make my stomach drop. Marine, multiple gunshot wounds, critical condition, possible internal bleeding. They wheeled him past me toward the trauma bay, and I caught a glimpse of his face. Young, maybe 25, dark hair matted with blood, skin pale as paper. Something about him felt familiar, but I could not place it. it. Now I want to hear from you. Where are you watching this story from? Write it in the comments. It is incredible to see people from so many places following stories like this. And if you are enjoying this, hit that subscribe button, because this story is just getting started. They assigned me to his care. The doctors operated for 7 hours, pulled 3 bullets from his chest and abdomen, repaired a collapsed lung and damaged liver. Miraculously, he survived, but barely. They put him in the intensive care unit, hooked him to machines that beeped and hummed and kept his broken body functioning. My shift started at 6 that evening. I walked into his room, checked his vitals, adjusted his IV drip, and looked at his face for the first time in proper light. Still unconscious, still pale, but stable. I pulled his chart. Sergeant Marcus Rivera, 26 years old, decorated Marine, 2 tours in Afghanistan, 1 in Syria, shot 3 times during a training exercise gone wrong at Camp Pendleton. Someone's weapon discharged accidentally. He was lucky to be alive. I went through my routine, checking his wounds, monitoring his breathing, making notes. Then I saw it. On his right forearm, partially covered by bandages, a tattoo, black ink, slightly faded. It showed a caduceus symbol wrapped in barbed wire with dates underneath. April 14th, 2019. My blood turned to ice. I knew those dates. I lived those dates. They were burned into my memory like a brand. I pulled the bandage back slightly and saw the rest. Below the dates, 15 names, small, cramped letters running down his forearm. Martinez, Chen, Thompson, Williams. I remembered every single one. These were the boys I saved, the Marines who lived because I chose them over a general, and this man, lying unconscious in front of me, was one of them. For 3 days, I cared for him in silence, changed his dressings, monitored his recovery, watched color slowly return to his face. I told no one about the tattoo, about the connection between us. What would I say? How would I explain without revealing who I really was? On the 4th night, his eyes opened, slowly at first, confused and unfocused, squinting against the dim lights of the ICU. I was adjusting his pillow when it happened. He turned his head, looked directly at me, and his eyes went wide. "Dr. Bennett," he whispered, his voice rough from the breathing tube they had removed that morning. I froze. My hands stopped moving. My heart hammered against my ribs. "You are mistaken," I said softly, professionally. "My name is Laura. I am your nurse." He shook his head slightly, wincing at the pain the movement caused. "No, I know your face. I have seen it 1,000 times. You saved my life in Mosul. You saved all of us. Why are you here? Why are you pretending to be just a nurse?" The words hung in the air between us. I wanted to run, to disappear, to maintain the carefully constructed lie I had built over 5 years, but something in his eyes stopped me. Gratitude, recognition, truth. I sat down beside his bed, glanced at the door to make sure we were alone, and for the first time in 5 years, I told someone the truth. "Because they destroyed me, Marcus. After I saved you and the others, they blamed me for the general's death. They took everything from me. This is all I have left." Now, the words poured out of me like water from a broken dam. I told him everything. The investigation, the court-martial, the media circus that turned me into a villain, how Colonel Stevens had manipulated evidence, how witnesses were pressured to lie, how my choice to save 15 Marines was twisted into dereliction of duty. I explained how I lost my medical license, my rank, everything I had worked for, how I disappeared, changed my name, became invisible. Marcus listened without interrupting, his eyes never leaving my face. When I finished, he was quiet for a long moment. Then he said something that changed everything. "I have proof," he whispered. "Proof that they lied. I have recordings, documents, everything." My heart stopped. "What are you talking about?" He took a shallow breath, wincing. "After we recovered, after we went home, we heard what they did to you. All of us. The guys you saved, we were furious. We knew the truth. We were there. So I started digging. I had friends in intelligence, people who owed me favors. I collected evidence, recordings of Stevens admitting he falsified reports, documents showing the general was already dying when he arrived, that no surgeon could have saved him, witness statements they buried. I have been looking for you for 5 years, Dr. Bennett. I wanted to clear your name." Tears burned my eyes. "Why? Why would you do that?" "Because you gave me my life back," he said simply. "I got married last year. My wife is pregnant. I get to be a father because of you. All of us, we all got to go home, to live, to have futures. We owe you everything." Hope is a dangerous thing. It had been so long since I felt it that the emotion was almost painful, but there was a problem, a significant one, and Marcus recognized it the moment I did. "Stevens," I whispered. "Colonel Stevens. He is here." Marcus's face hardened. "What do you mean he is here?" I explained. Colonel Richard Stevens had retired from active duty 2 years ago. and now worked as the chief of surgery at this very hospital. He was one of the doctors who walked past me every day without recognition, who treated me like furniture. But if he discovered who I really was, if he realized Laura the night nurse was actually Dr. Laura Bennett, he would destroy me again, this time permanently. He cannot know I am here, I said urgently. If he finds out, he will have me arrested. He still has connections, powerful friends. The evidence you have, it would not matter if I am in prison. Marcus struggled to sit up, his face contorted with pain and determination. Then we have to move fast. My lawyer has copies of everything. We can take this to the Inspector General, bypass Stevens entirely, but we need to do it before you are exposed. That night, Marcus contacted his lawyer. I provided my real credentials, my service records, everything needed to file a formal complaint with the military justice system. We worked in secret, during my night shifts when fewer people were around. For 2 weeks, everything went according to plan. Marcus recovered steadily. The evidence was submitted. An investigation was quietly opened. Then, on a Tuesday morning, everything fell apart. Dr. Harrison walked into Marcus's room during rounds. He glanced at the chart, made some dismissive comment about vitals, and then he saw the tattoo. "What is this?" Dr. Harrison asked, pointing at the dates on Marcus's forearm. April 14th, 2019. Mosul. I remember this. The Bennett case. You were one of those Marines she saved. Marcus's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. Harrison's eyes lit up with cruel amusement. That was quite the scandal. Doctor choosing enlisted men over a general. She got what she deserved, though. Court-martialed, disgraced, disappeared completely. Good riddance to bad judgment. I was standing in the corner of the room, updating medication records, trying to be invisible. But Harrison turned toward me, and something in his expression shifted. Recognition, maybe, or suspicion. "You know, Nurse Laura, you remind me of someone." His eyes narrowed. "Has anyone ever told you that you look like—" "I have a common face," I interrupted quickly, keeping my voice steady. "People say that a lot, but the seed was planted." Over the next 3 days, I noticed Harrison watching me, studying my features, whispering with other doctors. Then, on Friday evening, he cornered me in the medication room. "I know who you are," he said quietly, closing the door behind him. "Dr. Laura Bennett. I saw your pictures from the trial. Older now, different hair, but it is definitely you." My mouth went dry. "I do not know what you are talking about." He smiled, a predator's smile. "Sure you do. And I wonder what Colonel Stevens would say if he knew his favorite disgrace was working right under his nose. Or better yet, what the medical board would say about someone practicing with falsified credentials. It was blackmail, plain and simple. He wanted something. "Honey, what do you want?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Harrison leaned against the door, blocking my exit. "Simple. There is a position opening up, head of emergency medicine. I want Stevens to recommend me. You are going to convince him. How would I possibly?" "You will figure it out," he said coldly, "or I will expose you. You have 48 hours. He left me standing there, my hands shaking, my carefully constructed world crumbling around me. I went directly to Marcus's room and told him everything. His face darkened with anger. "We are not letting him win. The Inspector General's investigation is almost complete. They are ready to move forward. We just need a few more days." But we did not have a few more days. The next morning, Harrison requested a meeting with Stevens, and I knew my time was up. Except something unexpected happened. When Harrison walked into Stevens' office that afternoon, he found not just the colonel, but also 2 agents from the military's Criminal Investigation Division. Marcus's lawyer had accelerated everything. The evidence we provided was so damning that investigators had been working around the clock. They had interviewed witnesses, reviewed documents, uncovered even more corruption than we knew existed, and they wanted to make arrests before anyone could flee or destroy evidence. Stevens and Harrison were both taken into custody that afternoon. Fraud, falsifying official documents, conspiracy, witness tampering. The charges were extensive. They led both men out in handcuffs while the entire hospital watched in stunned silence. Marcus had arranged for me to be in his room when it happened, protected from immediate questioning. The aftermath was surreal. Within a week, every major news outlet covered the story. Military doctor wrongfully convicted, evidence of corruption exposed. My name was cleared, my rank restored, my medical license reinstated. The Secretary of Defense issued a public apology. They offered me my position back, a promotion, a chance to return to military medicine with full honors. I stood in Marcus's hospital room, the offer letter in my hands, and looked at the man who had given me back my life. He was sitting up now, color fully returned to his face, preparing for discharge. "What are you going to do?" he asked. I thought about it for a long moment, about the years of hiding, the invisibility, the simple act of caring for patients without glory or recognition. I thought about the nurses who had welcomed me, the patients who had trusted me, the quiet dignity of the work I had been doing. "I am staying," I said finally. "Staying as a nurse?" nurse. Marcus looked surprised. But you are a surgeon, one of the best. You earned your position back. I did, I agreed, but I also learned something these past 5 years. Titles do not define us. The work does, and I can do just as much good here, in these scrubs, as I ever did in an operating room, maybe more, because now I understand what really matters. Marcus smiled, understanding dawning in his eyes. You are sure? I am sure, and that is how my story ends, or rather, how it begins again. I still work at Naval Medical Center San Diego. I still wear blue scrubs and tie my hair back and work the night shift. But now, when doctors walk past me, they nod with respect. They know my story, they know my name, and they know that being just a nurse is more than enough. So what about you? What would you have done in my place? Would you have abandoned everything to protect the truth? Leave your opinion in the comments. I read every single one. If this story touched you in any way, subscribe to the channel to follow more real stories from healthcare professionals who face the impossible. And do not forget to watch the next recommended video. There is another story that will leave you speechless. See you soon.